You're watching Roll for Crit, and I am back with another Marvel Legendary expansion review. They're putting these things out faster than I can keep up with them. They have a whole bunch in the queue. We just recently got the Messiah Complex X-Men themed one, and now we have Doctor Strange and the Shadows of Nightmare. Of course, this one is themed around Doctor Strange, and like a lot of their recent expansions, it has some returning keywords with new twists, as well as some brand new keywords. Of course, new heroes, new villains. I'll go over those heroes first, and along with those, kind of give you the deal on how the new keywords work, as most of the heroes kind of specialize in one or the other of them. We'll start, of course, with Doctor Strange himself. There have been iterations of Doctor Strange in Legendary before. This is, I think, the third or maybe even fourth Doctor Strange that there's been. But this time, he has the Avengers class, and his name is spelled out fully Doctor Strange. There's no abbreviation, so that's how you can tell them apart easier. And he brings back artifacts, which we've seen in a few other expansions now, but now there's a new type of artifact, the Ritual Artifact. And the Ritual Artifact pretty much works the same way as regular ones. When you play them, they stay in front of you. They do not get discarded at the end of your turn. However, these ones have specific triggers that you need to meet. For example, Doctor Strange's Wand of Watum here says if you drew a card that turn, then you can discard this ritual to get an extra 3 attack points. And let's say you had a couple Wands of Watum and you drew a card, you could trigger that for both of these and get 6 attack points. So they are stronger the more you build them up, so you're deciding sometimes, even though I drew a card, maybe I don't want to use these right away because I want to save them for a bigger attack all in, or just use them as they come, different ways that they work. So, rituals, artifacts, are a great thing. It's always nice to have a card that doesn't clog up your deck, stays out in front of you, and this is just a cute little way of triggering them differently. And overall, I like Doctor Strange's new version of him a lot. I actually think he's probably the best version of Doctor Strange, at least most fun to me, that has been put in the game so far. And even his big card, his 8-costing card, is a ritual artifact. That is actually true for several of the heroes in this set, which is pretty interesting. This one gives you +7 attack if you had played another artifact that turn. So pretty good if you are building up with the Doctor Strange cards. A couple more I will show you next to introduce the concept of the demonic bargain. That's a new keyword. What that means, if you make a demonic bargain, it could be on a hero card or on a villain card sometimes. It means you look at the top card of your deck, you discard it, and if it cost 0, then you have made it through, you're pure of heart, you get a positive effect, whatever the bargain says. But if it costs 1 or more, then you have to take a wound card and add it to your deck. So both Clea and the Vishanti here, I don't want to rob the Vishanti of their full title, have demonic bargain cards. For example, here it says, you may make a demonic bargain to get +2 attack. So if you want to do that, in addition to the 2 attack it already gives you, you can check the top card of your deck, discard it, and you take a risk. It could help you or it could hurt you. Obviously, demonic bargains are going to be better early in the game when you have more 0-cost cards, but depending on your build of your deck, you may be able to use them later on. There are also some cards that will allow you to choose other players to make a demonic bargain, and that means that if you wanted to hurt somebody potentially, if you think they will lose the bargain, you could force another player to do that. Or maybe you try to help them. It depends on how you're feeling, what your mood is for the game in that current day. But it's an interesting mechanic that has some more player interaction, but doesn't complicate things too much. And like I said, both Clea and the Vishanti have cards like this. I think I particularly like the Vishanti. This card right here allows you to make a bargain to potentially draw 2 extra cards for your next turn, which is always a great thing to have. So if you set your deck up well with these ranged cards to trigger that more frequently, that could turn out some really big, powerful turns where you have a whole bunch of cards you get to use, which is always good. Next up, I will show you the Ancient One. The Ancient One is one of my favorite heroes from this set. First of all, just for this card alone right here, which is a 5-cost that just lets you draw 2 cards. Very simple, very basic kind of a thing, but always appreciated. I love that card already. But they also have a lot of things that deal with the astral plane, which is the other big new thing in this set. The way the astral plane works is normally you just have a city with different spaces where the villains go into. Now there's an astral plane to the other side of the villain deck, which is just one space. But if a villain is in the astral plane, then they are defeated using recruit points instead of attack points. So you swap that. And if they escape from there, if another villain, for example, were to enter the astral plane, there's only one space available. So the other one would escape immediately. They don't go back to the city. So it's a much riskier spot to keep a villain in. You usually will want to go for it and try to beat someone there and keep it clear if you can. And what's great about the Ancient One is he has this card here, which lets him send a villain from the city to the astral plane. And the reason that's awesome is because you'll notice the Ancient One does not have any attack points. He's just got recruit points. But if they're in the astral plane, he can use those recruit points to attack that villain. So it's really fun to have kind of your own special, especially if you're playing in a game where enemies aren't normally going to the astral plane. It kind of feels like you have your own personal little area to deal with villains. I think it's really fun, and it gives you a lot of recruit points, but you don't have to feel bad about them, taking up space for attack you might want later, because it kind of does both. So the Ancient One, I think, is a really strong new hero as well. And then finally, there is Dr. Voodoo, who, for me, unfortunately, is probably the only real dud in this set. He also does a lot of ritual artifact stuff, but I found them to be a little bit more specific and less interesting than the other ones. For example, this one requires you to have at least 3 hero classes to get extra attack points. This one allows you to discard an artifact to KO a card, but maybe that can be useful sometimes, but usually if I played an artifact, I'd rather use it for its ability than discard it for something else. I'm sure this guy has his uses in different sets and different builds, depending on which characters you're using. But personally, I didn't find him super fun to use. But that's still 4 out of 5 heroes that I really, really liked. So I don't feel too badly about this guy not quite clicking with me in the same way. Then you've got, of course, 2 new masterminds along with 2 new villain groups. This time it is Dormammu, and of course Dormammu likes to bargain, so all his cards are about demonic bargains. The twist with him is he has negative effects for winning the bargain. So even if you do draw a 0-cost card, you still have a bad thing happen to you. So you really don't want to bargain with Dormammu. That's no good. Whereas Nightmare deals with the astral plane. He's interesting. You'll see all his cards. He only has 6 health, but he's jumping in and out of the astral plane, and if you beat him in the astral plane, you don't get one of these tactics. So you're going to be fighting him a lot more times than you would most other masterminds. And I like that. I think that's pretty unique. It doesn't feel like it's just another mastermind that has a ton of health for you to eat through. It's sort of a different thing. And as you would expect, the villain groups that come with them, sort of the same thing. A lot of them will have ambushes that make you do bargains, or they will have ambushes where they go to the astral plane. So if you're playing with the Fear Lords, for instance, you're more worried about the astral plane keeping it clear than if you're not. And once again, there are 4 new schemes in here. Each one kind of specializes in one of the aforementioned new keywords, whether it be bargains, astral plane, or what have you. I do like this Cursed Pages of the Darkhold Tome. This new one turns twists into ritual artifacts, which are dangerous if the mastermind gets them, but helpful if you get them. And there's also this one, Duels of Science and Magic, which requires players to have certain types of cards at certain times, or else the mastermind will win those duels, which is bad. So I thought that's kind of a neat way to influence which cards you want to take from the HQ early on. So, these are some nice solid schemes. They make sense. They make use of the new stuff that's in here. Nothing mind-blowing, but they're pretty solid, and they're not overly complicated or anything like that. So overall, I really, really enjoyed this set. I think that the new keywords are really interesting. Astral Plane, I was a little worried about because it's another space on the board. Sometimes that can be complicated or clutter things up, but it's really actually pretty easy to deal with, and in practice, very fun to work with. Bringing artifacts back is always appreciated. This continues that trend that they've been doing where they bring back keywords, but with a new spin on them. And they've done that so far with all my favorite keywords. Focus came back, shards came back, now artifacts are back. So it feels like they're really in tune at Upper Deck with at least the keywords that I like, and I assume that other fans are also enjoying. And all the heroes are pretty good. Like I said, there was the one exception that I didn't love, but the standouts for me definitely Doctor Strange and the Ancient One, I think, are really fun to play with. So a pretty solid set. It's a smaller set, but for the price, you get what you get. You get what it's worth, I think, just like with all the other similarly sized legendary expansions that are available. This is one of my favorite, I think, of the last 2 or 3 that came out. This is probably my favorite. So I think they're doing a good job with it. If you're a Doctor Strange fan, of course, you're going to be excited, and you probably know more about some of the lore of these things than I do. But it is a nice new set. I like the keywords. I like the villains. And it doesn't feel like this one is just harder for difficulty's sake. I think there are some cool twists thrown in that also make you feel really powerful too. Some of these are really strong cards and will change the way you kind of think about it, especially Demonic Bargain, which I think is a really unique one because normally KOing 0-cost cards is a no-brainer. You always want to do that. But if you're building a Demonic Bargain deck, maybe you want to keep those shield agents or troopers around a little bit longer. So it can really change your strategy or play style. Again, it is called Doctor Strange and the Shadows of Nightmare. It is available right now, and there's no shortage of legendary content out there for you. But if you are interested in this, you can go purchase it, and I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about this one? How do you feel about the rituals? Maybe you did find a way for Baron Voodoo, there he is, that you made him work for you that I didn't quite understand. Or if you have a particular other favorite hero or something from this set, and where you think they should go next. I think Black Panther is going to be coming out at some point later this year, but we will see. That's it for this review. Thanks for watching. I'm Jonathan, and this is Roll for Crit. Thanks for watching. While you're here, why don't you like the video, subscribe to our channel for more content, or you can check us out on Patreon, where if you support us, there are a lot of cool goodies like posting in our Discord channel. We've also got a podcast you can listen to. We have weekly guests, lots of board game discussion. Check that out as well.